Hi, it's Pasi, Poutanen, founder here at Newsuit.io, and we've helped over 200 realtors to generate 5 to 20 listing appointments per month through a strategic personal branding methodology. In today's video, I want to talk about something called gun to your head marketing. What this basically means is something I actually learned from one of the greatest marketers in the world. So he's called Gary Keller. Now, essentially, he was one of the people who invented marketing. Back in the days where there was no social media, we didn't have Facebook or Instagram, nothing like that. So basically, all the marketing was really done through, as an example, print advertising, or as an example, direct mail marketing. Now, when he was starting out in marketing, he didn't have any success at all. Like, he was basically at a place where he was living in a house, living in a house with his wife, and in the house he was actually about to lose that house. Now, there was no running water. It was at a point where there's no electricity even in the house. Now, at that point, his wife was basically like, okay, well, I can't live in a house where there's no water. Can't live in a house when there's no electricity. So unless you fix these things in like 7 days, she's gonna leave. Now, what happened is that there was this massive pressure for Gary, and essentially what happened is that he really did not have any other choice than to make his marketing work. So he sat down and he started writing this marketing letter that actually turned out to be one of the most mailed marketing letters in the world all time. So even right to this day, this is one of the most mailed marketing letters. Now, Gary later on, he referred to this method or referred to this kind of situation he was in terms of gun to your head marketing. So he couldn't make it work until he was at a point where he kind of like had a gun to his head. And this experience taught him a very important lesson. So essentially, anytime he would write a marketing piece later, he would always think to himself, like, what if I had a gun to my head? Like, what if this marketing piece that I'm writing right now just had to work? Like, from there, with that mindset, really Gary went on to become one of the greatest marketing living legends in the whole world in terms of all time. So what does this have to do with you as a real estate agent? Obviously, our goal is not necessarily to become the next LeBron James or the next Kobe Bryant of real estate marketing, but maybe your goal is just to get your business to get to $500,000 a year, maybe get that to $1 million a year, or maybe you're looking to scale your team, maybe get that to a couple $1 million a year or more. Like, what does this have to do with your job as a real estate agent, and what does it really have to do with listing acquisition? Like, when you want to get more houses to sell, how does this same methodology apply to you? Well, it means that whenever you don't really have any other choice than to just to make it work, then that's when you're gonna really do your best work. This really kind of goes against the grain of what most real estate agents are kind of like used to in the current marketplace where we're at. You look out there and you see what your competitors are doing. As an example, you can go to their Facebook channel or their YouTube channel. You constantly kind of see people looking for that easy way out, right? So you see people trying to outsource their marketing. You see people subscribing to different softwares that promise to do their marketing for them, or you see templated posts on social media. Very, very usual. Or if people are doing their marketing themselves, quite often they really focus on doing it like really, really well, like doing it like in the world-class level. And rarely do people have like any consistency in their marketing. So where, really their marketing is happening great one week, some days it's happening at all. So it's kind of like going randomly in different direction without a clear red line. So what they're doing really, and what most people are really failing to realize is, essentially, if you're not getting your marketing done properly, you're really half-assing half of your entire business. Because essentially, 50% of your business as a realtor is going to be client acquisition, and 50% of it is going to be client service delivery. Now, the issue is, if that other 50%, if your client acquisition, 50% of your business is not done properly, that means is that you're bottlenecking your income. You can't get it to that next level until you fix that one skill, until you fix that one process. So it's kind of like Gary Keller. Everybody who's looking at this video probably knows who Gary Keller is. So he's the founder of Keller Williams, which is one of the most valuable real estate companies in the world. It's kind of how he said, like, you're gonna have a doctorate in real estate. You can be a professional litigator in contract negotiation. I mean, you can appraise property better than anyone in your market. But at the end of the day, you can have all those different things. You can be really great at client service delivery, but if you can't get any clients, it really is not gonna do you any good. So that's the point I want to bring here forward first. A lot of real estate agents fail to realize the importance of their marketing. And because a lot of realtors don't have that focused effort into their marketing, into their marketing systems, into their numbers. That's why a lot of people out there are kind of like ending up spinning their wheels. They might be in a situation where they've been a realtor for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatsoever, and they're still making the same amount of money they were making 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And a lot of times they end up in a situation where the job itself can also be really, really stressful. I mean, if you're just relying on referrals or you're just relying on your sphere of influence, you can't really predict and control your business. And that's what's also making the job itself a lot more stressful. Same also applies to, things like cold calling or door knocking, right? So cold calling or door knocking can certainly work, but it's not like you want to be cold calling and door knocking for the rest of your career. So that's why a lot of realtors kind of like fail to realize this importance, where they're still doing prospecting, even though they're really at a point where now it's time to really build up their marketing. Because with marketing, obviously they can do it in a scalable way without having to personally, kind of do those manual tasks. So they could prioritize their work, prioritize businesses a lot more efficiently. So anytime you're doing your marketing, just ask yourself, like, okay, well, what if I had that gun to my head? And what if I absolutely had to make this work? Like, what if this did not work? The person holding the gun to your head would pull the trigger and your life was over. Now, this is a little dramatical, but there are some examples of this happening in big businesses as well. I'm sure you know the company Apple. Everybody, I have a laptop here. This is Apple. I have a phone here. This is Apple. So Apple right now is one of the largest companies in the world. It's one of the most valuable companies in the world. But not too long ago, and again, when I'm saying not too long ago, just 20 years, 30 years. So it's not that long ago, really, in the large scheme of things. So back in the 90s, Apple had literally, 90 days worth of cash in their bank account. So if in 90 days they couldn't figure it out, they couldn't figure out their company, Apple would be going under, they'll be gone, and today we would have Google or something like that would control the marketplace. So what happened with Apple is they had that immense pressure into their business. So if they didn't make it work, the Apple would be gone. And what they actually did then is that they rehired Steve Jobs back to run the company, and Steve was able to turn that pressure into radical key decisions that eventually led Apple to turn things around and put Apple on this massive upward trajectory, which obviously led Apple into becoming this massive dominant company we have here today. So for you and I, we don't necessarily need to throw ourselves into these situations. We don't necessarily need to create these extremely threatening situations to perform at our best, but all we need to really do is just learn to think that, like, what if I had that gun to my head mindset, and then apply that mindset whenever we sit down in terms of doing our marketing. So what I want to challenge you today, and really in this video here today, is to think about your marketing, think about your listing client acquisition, and ask yourself, like, what if you had that gun to your head to get more listing clients? What if you absolutely had to make it work? Say you had to generate 50 new listings this year, or your life would be over. What would you change in the marketing? Would you be really doing the things you're doing right now? When you look at your Facebook, when you look at your Instagram, you look at your LinkedIn, you look at your YouTube, would you be doing the things you're doing right now, or would you do something different? Same applies to every other marketing things, like, as an example, your marketing budget. Let's say you're allocating your marketing budget, to certain services, certain places. Would you put that marketing budget in those places, or would you allocate it differently? So that's it for this video. I hope you found this extremely useful, and I'll see you in the next one.